Thursday's lunchtime news now on BBC One with Ben Brown.
Today at 1, a fresh wave of Russian missile attacks on Ukraine. Cities and towns across the country have been hit, but Ukraine's intelligence chief tells the BBC Russia is now running out of missiles.
Can they do this for long? No, because they do not have many missiles left. Their defence industry is incapable of producing enough missiles to sustain the same scale of strikes.
A third person is arrested over the Christmas Eve pub shooting that killed 26-year-old Ellie Edwards. As the winter strikes continue, the new leader of the TUC accuses ministers of refusing to negotiate on public sector pay. And the Canadian town encased in ice after the deadly winter storm that has swept across North America. Good afternoon. Russia has launched a fresh wave of missile strikes on Ukraine in one of the biggest bombardments since the start of the war. The Ukrainian authorities say about 70 missiles were launched from air and sea. Many of them were intercepted. Even so, towns and cities across Ukraine have been hit. 90% of Lviv is without power and 40% of the capital, Kyiv. But the head of Ukrainian military intelligence has told the BBC Russia is now running out of missiles. Hugo Bachega sent us this report from Kyiv.
On the outskirts of Kyiv, tears and anger. The front lines are far from here. But this morning, war has come to them. Tatiana's house was hit as Russia launched another wave of airstrikes. Her granddaughter was in her bedroom when the attack happened and was injured. She was very scared. She was screaming on the phone, she says. It's a very difficult feeling when you're just waiting for the next attack to happen. Tatiana's husband was in this room when the ceiling fell. I went deaf temporarily. Everything started to crumble around me. I run outside and find my daughter screaming.
This, Ukrainians say, is another proof of what they describe as Russian terror. Missiles and drones have brought suffering and destruction to people no matter where they are.
Attacks like this are unlikely to stop, Ukraine's spy chief tells me.
They will try to continue them. Can they do this for long? No, because they do not have many missiles left. Their defence industry is incapable of producing enough missiles to sustain the same scale of strikes. This is another reason they're trying to get missiles from other countries.
Kyiv is now returning to normal, but people wonder when their city may be hit again.
And here, cleanup efforts are still underway, and across Kyiv and in many parts of the country, people remain without power. And for weeks, Ukraine has accused Russia of using winter as a weapon by attacking civilian infrastructure across the country. Today, the foreign minister tweeted, "This attack was senseless barbarism to attack peaceful cities ahead of the new year." Ben?
Hugo, thank you very much. Hugo Bachega reporting there. Here, a third person has been arrested over the murder of 26-year-old Ellie Edwards, who was shot at a pub in Wallasey on Christmas Eve. A 31-year-old man is being questioned on suspicion of conspiracy to murder. Our correspondent Nick Garnett is outside the lighthouse in Wallasey. Nick, just bring us up to date with the latest details.
So this latest arrest is the third so far in this investigation. He was brought into custody from Tranmere, which is about 3 miles away from here. 12 shots were fired into the pub on Christmas Eve at about 11:45. Ellie Edwards, a 26-year-old beautician, was hit in the head by one of the bullets. She was not the intended target and was caught in the crossfire and died before she could get to hospital. 4 other people were injured. One of those people that was injured is still in hospital at the moment. Now, detectives say they've been given more time to question 2 other people who are in custody. A 30-year-old man who's being questioned on suspicion of murder and attempted murder, and a 19-year-old woman who's being questioned on conspiracy charges. Now, the police say they are searching for a black car and also the murder weapon that was used in the attack.
Nick, thank you. Nick Garnett reporting. The third man has been arrested on suspicion of the murder of Cody Fisher, who was stabbed to death at a Boxing Day nightclub event in Birmingham. West Midlands Police said that a knife had been found and it had applied for the nightclub's licence to be reviewed. 4 other people have been arrested on suspicion of assisting an offender. The Defence Secretary says ministers are keeping the health situation in China under review. It comes as EU health officials meet to discuss their response to a possible influx of visitors from China, where experts now say that coronavirus is spreading rapidly. Italy's Prime Minister has said she expects and hopes that the EU will follow her country's lead in imposing mandatory COVID tests for all passengers flying in from China. The new leader of the Trades Union Congress, which represents dozens of unions in England and Wales, has accused the government of refusing to negotiate on public sector pay. Paul Novak also says ministers are using pay review bodies as a human shield to deflect proper wage rises. But the Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, insisted today those bodies are independent. Well, it comes amid a continuing wave of industrial action this winter, as Katie Austin now reports.
Picket lines have become a familiar sight this year as an increasing number of workers take part in strikes. The new leader of the TUC, the umbrella organisation for dozens of unions in England and Wales, said more transparency was needed around the process by which independent review bodies recommend pay for NHS staff and other public sector workers, such as teachers and police officers.
It's really important that if the pay review body is going to continue, that they have real credibility and they're seen to be genuinely independent. And as I say, the pay review body process itself, I think, is in danger of being brought into disrepute because the government is hiding behind the pay review bodies, refusing to negotiate on pay and refusing to reach a reasonable settlement with our public sector unions.
At the moment, there's no end in sight to industrial action in a number of sectors. Today, a strike by Border Force staff in the PCS union at 6 major airports continues. Driving examiners have also walked out in some areas of England. Other action in the diary includes national strikes by rail workers in the RMT and ASLEF unions in the first working week of January, and also in January, more strikes involving ambulance workers and nurses. This morning, the Defence Secretary visited military personnel covering for Border Force workers during their strike at Manchester Airport. He said ministers would not ignore the advice of independent pay review bodies to suit the agenda of trade union leaders, and it was for unions to negotiate with employers. And he rejected any suggestion that the border was less secure when manned by the armed forces.
Our borders are safe and secure. These individuals, the members of the armed forces that have come to help out when the strikes are on, are carrying out a very straightforward function, and of course backed up by computer systems and scans that allow us to identify people of worry coming into the country.
The TUC boss said today he hoped compromise could be reached, but as things stand, the new year will bring further walkouts. Katie Austin, BBC News.
Let's talk to our chief political correspondent, Nick Eardley, who's here with me now. Nick, so many groups of workers involved in industrial action this winter. In the last few days, has there been any sign of any kind of progress?
Not when it comes to the public sector. The simple answer is no. And we've heard the Defence Secretary heating up the rhetoric again, really, in the past hour, telling broadcasters that the government wasn't going to be held to ransom on this. The ministers weren't prepared to go back to the 1970s with union leaders in Downing Street. The new leader of the TUC is saying, meanwhile, that ministers are sabotaging the talks by refusing to talk about pay. So it doesn't feel to me in any sense that there's been meaningful progress there. There has been more conversations about how these independent pay review bodies work. We heard the TUC saying they're being used as a human shield, being brought into disrepute. I think ministers are prepared to look at that next year, although exactly what looking at it would mean isn't completely clear. But on that key issue of pay, There's been no progress at all, no real movement from either side. And as things stand, the start of next year is going to look a lot like the end of this year, with a lot of industrial unrest.
OK, Nick, thank you very much indeed. Nick Eardley there, our chief political correspondent. At least 19 people have been killed in a fire at a casino hotel in northwest Cambodia. Police say more than 400 people were in the building at the time. About 50 have been injured, with many of them in a critical condition. Aruna Iyengar has this report.
Flames and smoke billowing out from the Grand Diamond City Casino in Poi Phet, close to the Thai border. It's feared dozens may have died here on Wednesday night. Rescue workers say they saw people jumping from the building to escape flames. Others were huddled on window ledges. A group were also seen packed onto a rooftop. It's thought the fire started on the first floor but spread quickly along carpets and leapt through the multi-storey building. Firefighters from Thailand have been working with local Cambodian emergency services to contain the blaze. A Thai rescue team here in a stairwell put on masks and hoods before entering a smoke-filled corridor. Many victims were taken to hospital, amongst them Cambodians, Thais and Indonesians. Poi Phet is a popular holiday destination for visitors from Thailand, where most forms of gambling are illegal. Casinos are a key part of Cambodia's tourism industry. This blaze follows 2 other fatal incidents in entertainment venues in Thailand and Vietnam this year. Aruna Iyengar, BBC News.
Roman Catholic leaders around the world have joined Pope Francis in calling for prayers for his predecessor, Benedict XVI, whose health has taken a sudden turn for the worse. The current Pope visited the 95-year-old and said he is very ill. Well, our news correspondent Bethany Bell is at the Vatican for us. Bethany, just bring us your latest information.
Well, we haven't heard anything official from the Vatican since yesterday. Pope Francis was the first to break the news, as you said, saying that former Pope Benedict was very ill, and he asked Catholics around the world to ask God to sustain Benedict until the end, in his words, bearing witness to the Church until the end. We're told as well by the Vatican yesterday that Benedict is receiving constant medical attention and that his condition is under control, but it gave no more details than that. Now, Benedict is 95 years old. He's been in poor health for some time now, and people are watching very, very carefully to see what the coming days and hours may bring. Benedict, it's interesting, became Pope in 2005. He was the successor of Pope John Paul II. He was an espouser of Catholic doctrine and became the first Pope to resign in 2013, saying he no longer had the physical and mental strength to run the Church.
Bethany, thank you very much. This year has seen the number of people crossing the Channel in small boats rise to more than 45,000, with a record number of them from Albania, almost 13,000. The National Crime Agency says that over the last 12 months, Albanian drugs gangs in the UK have exploited the migrant crisis. Our Home Affairs correspondent June Kelly has this report.
A terraced house in Hartlepool. According to police intelligence, it's been taken over by the drugs trade. This is one of a series of raids by the Cleveland Force targeting suspected organised crime operations. A 25-year-old Albanian man is arrested. He's also wanted by police in Kent.
Any persons?
At a second address, officers find a living room full of cannabis plants. Here there's another arrest. Again, the man is 25 and Albanian. He's also a suspected illegal immigrant. Both men have now been charged with cannabis production. Over a few hours in these and other raids, police seized drugs valued at almost £500,000.
The serious and organised crime groups, to make sure that they apply their trade, there's also associated violence in and around the areas between different and rival gangs. So this is another reason why we're trying to protect the public and keep them safe, and especially the vulnerable people that these organised crime groups prey on.
National law enforcement chiefs say that Albanian gangs have become involved in what they describe as an explosion in cannabis production around the country. And the gangs are now drawing on the growing number of migrant arrivals. In some cases, the cannabis farms are being run with forced labour. Young Albanians, many who have come across the channel, can be in hock to the gangs. The criminals are demanding payback for funding their passage to the UK. This is a system of debt bondage. On the phone from an immigration removal centre, one man in his 20s spoke to us. He was prosecuted and convicted after being found working on a cannabis farm.
I was in Belgium looking for work. Some Albanian men said that they would help me. I got into a lorry and I didn't know where I was going. I was trafficked into UK. The gang said I owed them £24,000 and they threatened to kill my family. I was told I had to work in a cannabis farm. I was beaten.
If you didn't choose to come to the United Kingdom, why do you want to stay in the United Kingdom now?
My life will be in danger if I go back to Albania.
A charity is now helping him to fight deportation. He says he's a victim of modern slavery. The government wants to make the system for assessing these cases tougher. Most are currently accepted. The people smugglers are making millions from illegal immigration. And law enforcement bosses say the influx of Albanians is in turn fueling crime in the UK. June Kelly, BBC News.
The latest Avatar film has made $1 billion at the global box office in just 14 days, becoming the fastest movie to pass that milestone this year.
Why do you come to us?
But James Cameron, who directed Avatar: The Way of Water, says the movie needs to make $2 billion to break even. It is one of only 3 films to surpass the $1 billion revenue mark in 2022. New footage shows houses in the Canadian town of Fort Erie fully encased in ice after the powerful winter storm that has struck North America. No fatalities were reported in these homes, but more than 65 people have died in the last few days as a result of that storm. Well, not quite that cold here, thank goodness, but let's get the latest weather forecast for you from Matt Taylor. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Ben. Incredible scenes there. They're actually going to finish the year with temperatures 10 to 20 degrees above normal, rather than the cold they have seen. For us, well, instead of big freeze to thaw, it's gone from grey to blue today after that miserable wet day many saw yesterday. At long last, we've seen a little bit of sunshine across most parts through today, but there have been a few showers around. It's not been completely dry picture. Some captured here off the coast in Northern Ireland earlier. And there is more rain to come to see the year out. If we just show our rainfall forecast for the rest of this year, you'll notice how the blue colours mounting up in the west. We've got winds coming off the Atlantic, so bringing some mild air for many, but those rainfall totals totting up. And Met Office particularly concerned through tonight into tomorrow morning across parts of Dumfries and Galloway and the borders. Lots of wet weather there already and more rain to come. There is a risk of flooding. There could be some travel disruption if you're heading north ahead of the new year. And certainly some showers here through the rest of this afternoon. Pushing eastwards across much of Scotland. A bit wintry over the hills, brightening up in the west later. Better end to the day in Northern Ireland. A few showers dotted around through England and Wales, but some central eastern areas continue with the dry story. Temperatures around we expect this time of the year. Quite breezy though out there at the moment. Winds temporarily ease down this evening. That's going to allow things to turn a bit chillier for us for a time in Scotland, and then this next weather system pushes its way in. More extensive rain once again to take us into tomorrow morning, and plenty of snow too across the higher ground of central and northern Scotland. So for tomorrow morning, may start dry across some eastern counties of England, but rain will sweep across all parts, heaviest across some northern areas. As I said, southwest Scotland, that risk of flooding. Still some snow in the Scottish Highlands, but most, it's a day of two halves. Tomorrow should brighten up for the afternoon, greater amount of sunshine, a few showers around, but again, quite windy. In fact, windier than today around some western coasts. Could see gusts of wind 40 to 60 miles an hour. That will temper the feel of what, again, is a day of temperatures at, if not a little bit above average for this stage in the year. And then as we head into the last day of 2022, these weather fronts starting to gang up. A little bit of uncertainty exactly where it's going to bring some of the wettest weather. Most likely during the morning across some parts of central sway of the UK clearing. Heavy rain then pushing up across southern parts of England and Wales later. Clearer to the north with a bit of a chill, and as we head into the end of New Year's, you see in the midnight, we'll see some clearer skies here and there. The rain in the south will gradually clear through as well. So it will be a bit of a drier end to 2022. Showers and a bit of a wintry feel across the north for New Year's Day. Ben.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you very much. And that is all from the BBC News at 1. So it's goodbye from me. And on BBC One now, we'll join the BBC's news teams where you are. Do have a very good afternoon.